In this video, I want to cover the 5 myths about HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. My name is Simon Zutshi. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network. I've been investing in property since 1995, and I've been a student HMO landlord since 1998. And a lot of people want to get into HMOs because they're one of the best strategies to quickly replace your income. However, a lot of people are put off because what I think they know about HMOs, and actually some of these are the biggest myths that are just not correct, or maybe they're partly correct. So that's why in this video, I want to cover the 5 big myths about HMO properties. So, HMO property myth number 1 is that there is an oversupply of HMOs everywhere, and so you shouldn't do HMOs. Well, let's be honest, there are lots of HMOs, and in most areas, there might be a little bit of an oversupply. However, if you look at the stock that's actually available, you go onto spareroom.co.uk, you'll see that most of the accommodation available is very average, very plain HMOs. And I maintain if you have good HMOs, better than the average quality in the area, then you should always be able to find tenants. So yes, if you're trying to do a very average bog standard HMO, there is an oversupply. If you're doing the higher end, better quality, people will always want those and be prepared to pay more money to live in a better quality property. So myth number 2 is that HMOs are a lot more work than single let properties. And I would agree. One HMO is more work than one single let buy-to-let property. However, if you look at the income you can create from a good HMO, it's equivalent to about 4 or 5 single let properties. So to make a fair comparison, you should look at the amount of work involved with one HMO compared to 4 or 5 single lets, and I would suggest an HMO is not actually that much work. So when you know what you're doing, you have great systems in place, and it needn't take much time to have your HMO up and running. The next big myth about HMOs is that every HMO needs to have an HMO license. That's simply not correct. So an HMO technically is a property that has 3 or more unrelated people living in that property. However, not all HMOs need licensing. The government guidelines that came out in October 2018 say that if you have a property with 5 or more tenants, then you need to have an HMO license. Now, some councils interpret it in a different way and they say 3 or more tenants. So the key here is to contact your local council, the HMO licensing department, speak to them and understand what are the requirements in your area. Now, if it does need a license, it means you have to fill in an application form, you have to provide a sketch floor plan of the property to say where the fire doors are and the smoke alarms, etc. And you need to make sure the property is set up correctly with all the safety requirements. I believe you have a moral and ethical responsibility, as well as a legal responsibility, to make sure you're providing safe accommodation for all of your tenants. The next big myth, myth number 4 about HMOs, is that all HMOs need planning permission. Again, this is not correct. So let me explain planning to you. And it's a little bit complicated, but I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. So if you have a larger HMO with 7 or more tenants, it's no longer seen as a residential property. And in fact, it's its own planning class called sui generis. So you'd need to apply for planning permission to get a change of use from a residential into sui generis for 7 or more tenants. Now, if you have a smaller HMO, up to 6 tenants, then in most areas of the country, you can take a normal house, convert it into an HMO for up to 6 tenants, and you can use what's called permitted development. That means you do not need to get planning permission, unless it's in an Article 4 area. Now, Article 4 has come in some parts of the country, it is coming in some parts, and in some parts it will never come in. And what it is the local councils who have applied Article 4 means they've got the right to withdraw permitted development rights. So therefore, if you want to take a normal house and convert it into an HMO for up to 6 people, you actually now need to get planning permission to be able to do that. So most councils have brought Article 4 in, they don't want more HMOs. So if you apply for planning permission, it's probably going to be rejected automatically. However, if your property meets all the criteria, it doesn't mean it won't get planning under the correct conditions if you go to appeal. The other thing is, in an Article 4 area, you can actually buy an existing HMO, and as long as it's been an HMO since before Article 4 came in, and it's been used continuously during that time as an HMO, you can apply for what's called a certificate of lawfulness, which means you don't need to get planning. So if it is an Article 4 area, the key here is to speak to local council, this time the planning department, find out when Article 4 came in, so you know how long you have to make sure you've got the correct records for. If Article 4 isn't in place, find out are there plans for it to be coming in, and if so, when is that the case? In which case, if you're taking a house and turning it into an HMO, you need to make sure it's finished and tenanted before Article 4 starts in that area. Another quick tip for you here, if you look at the boundary on which Article 4 lies, there might be a street which has some HMOs and half of the street is Article 4 and the other end of the street is not Article 4. And that end of the street, you could absolutely do HMOs and it might be a perfect location. So always look at the boundary, really good tip there. And the final HMO property myth is that you need to have lots of money to do HMOs. Well, I would agree, if you're buying HMOs, especially if you're doing conversions, there is money required to do that. Doesn't mean that it has to be your money. It could be money you've borrowed from someone. It could be a joint venture where you find the property and do the work and someone else puts in all the money. Or there are a couple of other strategies where you don't have to put in a lot of money. For example, rent to rent, where you take on someone's property, maybe they're struggling to manage it themselves, and you give them a guaranteed rent, and you rent it out for more money, such as an HMO. And you make the margin, the difference between what you pay the landlord and what you charge the tenants. It's a great strategy, especially if you're starting out. The other thing is a purchase lease option. Similar to rent, you pay a guaranteed rent to the landlord each month, you rent the property out, you make a margin, but with a PLO, purchase lease option, you also have the right to buy the property in the future. Now that's really powerful because you can get potential equity growth as well as great cash flow from a property. So those are the 5 most common myths about HMO property. I do hope I've explained some of them. And really, if you know what you're doing, you can make a huge amount of money from HMOs. I'm not saying it's easy, there's definitely work involved, but the time and effort you put in will be very well rewarded. A good 6-bed HMO could make you £1,000 profit a month. Therefore, you probably don't need that many HMOs to actually replace your income and allow you to have the time to do what you want to do. So I do hope this video has been interesting for you. Please do comment below, please share, please like. And if you'd like to learn more about HMOs, I'm creating 3 in-depth videos with a lot more training about HMOs. All you have to do is click on the link below this video and you'll be able to subscribe and get access to those 3 videos. I don't want to just send them to everybody. I want to send the people who are interested in HMOs. That's one way to opt in, give us your email address, and we'll send those video training to you over the next few weeks. So my name's Simon Zutshi. I'd encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. Thanks for watching.